a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show. Here on OMTimes Radio, we're changing the world one ohm at a time. And here on the Dr. Kevin Show, we're challenging everything and everyone. So I invite you to be part of that challenge. You know, to my listeners, I remind you every week, you can come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin, MYDRKEVIN, and you can post your thoughts, your questions. You can share them with the other listeners that we have. You can speak out. You can ask our weekly guests, whoever it may be, whatever you would like to know. Remember, it's very easy to sit in the cheap seats and complain about how the world is working or not working, how unhappy you are with something. But it's really another thing when you stand up, speak out, and are willing to make a difference, take an action. This is your invitation to make a difference, to take an action, to be able to share your thoughts, ask your questions, and be part of the change. If you're not part of the change, you're part of the problem. So again, that's facebook.com/MyDrKevin. And come on in and ask today's guest any questions you want. I often tell our guests, sometimes beforehand and sometimes right on the air. If somebody asks a guest, because this show is live on every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that if somebody should hear one of the replays, which happens every day, from now till my next live show, that they could be hearing a replay. So you might be asking a question when we're no longer live on air. And in that case, we make sure that I will chase down the guest. I may have to pick them up by their ankles. I may have to shake them upside down. But I will get that answer for you. So we're going to start, as we always do, with my hot topic. I do know that my guest is having a little bit of an issue getting in today. We tried to have this man on before, and he had an unfortunate emergency that couldn't be helped. And at that time, my once-a-month co-host for Thirst Quenching Thursday, Matt Connarton, made himself available, and we ran with it. This time, I know that I have been in communication with him and that he is having a little bit of technical difficulty, but I'm hoping that he's going to be coming in at any time. And I'm going to ask him right now about how goes it, because I would love to have him on the air for the hot topic. The other thing is coming up soon, for those of you who are local in the New England area, I am going to be at a fundraiser for raising money for the animal shelter in Manchester, New Hampshire. That, I believe, is April 9th, all day long at the UU Church in Manchester, New Hampshire, the UU Church, which is on Union. And that is April 9th, from 10 to 4, an animal shelter fundraiser. So make sure that you're there. I'm also going to be at a spirit drumming circle on the 10th. If you want more information about either one of those, you can, come to my Facebook fan page and message me, or you can email me at drkevin@mydrkevin. Make sure when you come to the Facebook fan page that you do click that little like button. We like to know that you like us. If there was a hate button, I'd say that, but we can do a heart now. You can do a heart button or a frustrated button, and that could be really good as well. Let me see. It doesn't come out as good, but I know he's having some problems with his computer. But there would be a possibility of that happening, that he could actually do that. So I'm actually going to play you a little piece of music that I wanted to play for you to start my hot topic. And as you remember, the hot topic is something that may make me hot under the collar or make me feel all kind of warm and fuzzy. And I have my guest who is responding right now. I am watching those lovely little 3 dots. How many people out there? Again, let me know. Come to facebook.com/. So he's going to ask me to call him in. I am going to do that. And unfortunately, it never comes out quite as clear, but we're going to try this. And we're going to see how this happens. You hear the sound of me trying to call my guest in.
Hi, Dr. Kevin.
Yes. Is this my guest for tonight?
Yes, this is Andy Craig, and I apologize for our technical difficulties there.
Okay, well, I haven't quite introduced you yet. I was going to be doing that in just a minute. I always start this first segment, and what I'm going to say is in about 6 minutes, we go on break, and you've got 2 or 3 minutes of commercials. It always comes back much clearer if we can get on computer, but we can do phone for now. So right now, we're in my hot topic. So I'm getting ready to share my hot topic, and then I'm going to ask what you think about it. And I'm going to start my hot topic with a song. And so I'm glad you're here because I want you to hear the song, the hot topic, and then you get to weigh in on it. How's that?
All right, absolutely.
Let's see if I'm going to have any more technical difficulty, if this will actually play.
You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late. Before you are 6 or 7 or 8. To hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be carefully taught.
So, could you hear that, Andy?
Yes, I got that.
Okay, and I know that my listeners could hear it. And so my hot topic today is that why are we teaching so much hate? I just recently read something this afternoon about genocide and ISIS, and they think that they've actually been able to get away with committing genocide. And all I could think of is hate has to be taught. It is not born. And of course, the fact that I teach something called Everything You Need to Know About Life You Can Learn from a Broadway Musical, I'd go to a Broadway musical. But the question is, how do we break the cycle of teaching hate? Can we break the cycle of teaching hate? And what do we do about it? And you know what? It's not just over there. It's just not on the other side of the pond, like we like to say, but right over here. So much of the shenanigans in the last few months in the political arena have all been about feeding hate. Tonight's guest is Andy Craig. Andy Craig is running for Congress. He is running as a libertarian. He is running in Wisconsin. He also is part of the Gary Johnson for President campaign. And I've never met Andy before, but I was watching some of the stuff he was saying, and I thought, this is a man I'd like to give a microphone to. So, Andy, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be on.
So, what can we do about all of this teaching of hate? Can we break the cycle? How do we even interrupt the cycle? Because I see it escalating right here, right now. in our own political, in our own presidency, run for president? What can we do?
Well, I would say that part of it is to keep in mind how much progress we have made and are making. It's easy to look at the Donald Trump phenomenon, or even to a degree the anti-trade protectionism coming from Sanders' side, and get depressed and say, "Oh, everything's getting worse." I really believe in what Michael Shermer talked about in his book, The Moral Arc. That if you look 20, 30, 40, 100 years ago, the way our society treated outsiders, non-white, non-men, non-Christians for the most part, gays and lesbians, all that sort of thing, there has been enormous progress made, including on people, including foreigners within their moral circle, so to speak, that the lives of people killed in wars does matter to Americans now more than it has before. So I would just say that I would keep up that progress that is already being made. It's not automatic. We definitely have to fight to go out there and defend it and teach that message. Teach your children well, as the song goes, for sure. But I would say that it is also important to keep in mind that things are not getting worse, that this is the happiest, freest, most prosperous, most peaceful time in human history by any measure. It is right here, right now, 2016. So, I'm a long-term optimist.
Okay, long-term optimist. I'm pretty optimistic that at any moment now we are going to start hearing music playing, which is going to tell me that we are coming up on break. And I don't know if you can hear it, but we can hear it right now. We're going to be right back. We have Andy Craig, Libertarian, running for Congress.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Five Nation Radio is brought to you by Carrie Turcotte and Dean Thomas. Each week we bring a refreshing outlook to lifting the veils of illusion that occur in our daily lives. We will share our own learnings and personal experience that allow others to understand who they truly are.
At the end of each show, Carrie will be tapping into the listeners' energies just to give an idea of what to expect for the week ahead. So join us each Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and together we will discover the inner keys that will unlock the true you.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, and welcome back. we think we're actually getting ready to get Andy onto the thing. I'm going to try to call him in now. Andy, I've still got you on the phone. It's saying you've got to accept my friend contract. Can you accept my...
My computer that I'm trying to run Skype off of is pressed its hands on me. I'm going to have to continue on the phone here.
Okay. Well, we're going to make the most of it. I've got the phone set right up by the thing. I would love it if somebody would let me know how it's sounding on air to see, make sure that we've got it up loud enough. I've got it up as loud as I can, but we're going to keep on going on. Andy, we left it with that you're a fact that you're a cockeyed optimist and you take a longer view. And I would not say that it's not that I'm not an optimist, but as for all the stuff that is going good, do you agree with the assessment that we probably have in this country the greatest division of wealth disbursement that we've ever had? That there is more wealth in fewer people's hands than there has ever been, and there's an increasing number of people that are falling down, not moving up. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I'd have to disagree on that. I don't think it's true that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. I think everybody's getting richer. Yes, there's ups and downs, and there's trends of prosperity, and that's all true. I would still rather be a poor person living in the United States today than in 1970.
Well, I don't think that. I think in a country of this wealth, I don't think we should have poor people, but that's beside the point. I do also believe that somebody has to be responsible for their choices. And there are some people that are making choices to basically ensure that they stay poor because they like the benefits of it. That's not all people, and I'm not an antisocial program person. I think we do need to help people out that are struggling, but I think that we have a fair amount of people that are also playing the game. Thoughts?
That's definitely the case. Whenever you create these sorts of programs, that is going to be one of the costs of it. And, whether we decide those costs are justified or not, definitely that's the cost that needs to be kept in mind, is that, these aren't charity, they're government programs that are available to all, regardless of motive. We can't have some kind, there's never going to be some kind of effective government motive screener on the recipients of these programs. Once you establish that we're going to give stuff out like that, then that will be inevitable. That there will be some degree of a culture of dependency. There will be some people who abuse it, and that's why I say that even though I'm certainly very realistic and pragmatic at it, coming at this from a libertarian perspective, I understand we're not going to abolish the social safety net. That's why I would prefer, like Milton Friedman and F.A. Hayek talked about, to have a guaranteed basic income. I would rather have it be no strings attached and given out to everybody with no flexibility. No, the government says, oh, you can't spend it on this, you can't spend it on that. It should be whatever low flat amount we decide to spend it at. You should go to everybody and get out the bureaucratic welfare state side of it.
So you're against the program. Last week, I had somebody from the House of Representatives from the state of Maine on my show. And, there was recently a big brouhaha over there because 9,000 people were pushed off of the welfare doles because they wouldn't do community service in exchange for the money. So you don't think that those programs should be like that at all?
No, I really don't, because then you compound the one cost, the cost of redistribution. You're taking the money from someone and we're going to give it to other people. But then that it becomes filing two wrongs on top of it when you say, all right, here's XYZ hoops you have to jump through in order to get
So now, do you think that it should be limited to food of any kind, or do you think that they should get this and be able to buy cigarettes?
I think it should be a fun check, and if they want to buy cigarettes before doing it, money is fungible. That's part of it. Is money is fungible. You give somebody for food, if they're buying cigarettes, then you're saving the money that they're going to go buy other cigarettes with. Anyway, whenever you subsidize somebody, you're subsidizing their marginal purchases. So the idea that we can somehow direct this to only food or only necessities, I don't think that's possible. That then you get this huge bureaucracy that 80% of it gets wasted on the middleman administering the rules.
Well, that's certainly true. And actually, this segment is supposed to be called Outside the Box, where you're supposed to take things outside the box and stretch my listeners' comfort zone. And I imagine that even though I didn't announce the section, that's probably what we're doing right now with some of what you are putting forward. So why do we? So what is the criteria? I mean, don't we need middlemen for the criteria, or is there is no criteria? If you go in and say I need money, well, this is how much money you can get this week. How does that look?
Well, I would have it. Kind of the same way tax returns work now, is we wouldn't even look at it as being only for entitlement. It would be something that everybody, if it's $2,000 a year, say, or whatever the amount is, that anybody and everybody can claim that. And if you want to give it away to charity yourself or spend it on whatever else you want to spend it on, I would say go for it. Means testing is probably the simplest to administer. That is easier than all these, work requirements or a list of what you can and can't buy and that sort of thing. But I would say even with means testing, there's an important legal egalitarian principle at stake that functions as an overall limit on this. If it has to be freely available to everybody, then that's a limit on how high it can be jacked up, the amount. If it's only, all right, this is just for the bottom 5%, well, it's going to be very politically difficult to vote against that, to vote against increasing it. Whereas if it goes to everybody and the associated costs are coming out of a simplified tax system that everybody is bought into, then, that's how I would do it. And this is an idea that comes from Nobel Prize winning libertarian economist Milton Friedman, called it a negative income tax. That's the idea he had with it, and a kind of bastardized version of that is what became the earned income tax credit. Friedrich Hayek talked about it as being a basic income guarantee, and the idea is that whatever social safety net we have, this will reduce all the dead weight losses and reduce it to a straight, all right, here's the transfer program we're going to have as a safety net. Whereas now you've got 18 different programs. Nobody can ever keep track of them. Half the people that are even eligible for them aren't signed up for those. And like I said, I don't do so much of it gets wasted. More money gets wasted on overhead than actually helping anybody.
So if there are 18 different programs and they're being administered by government and state and town and all of this stuff, and we eliminate them, then we've just eliminated, 18 million jobs, but more or less? And what are we going to do to those people?
Total government employment aren't quite that big, but yeah, it would be a lot. It would be a substantial number of jobs, but government is not a jobs program. Whenever the government hires somebody, that's a cost to the economy at large, and the rest of us have to pay that tax for the rest of it. We could have 100% employment if we made everybody be a food stamp administrator, that sort of thing, but that should not be the factor that goes into the cost-benefit analysis of it.
If we're setting, because I think that a lot of people sometimes struggle with what's the difference between socialism and libertarianism. How would you define the difference?
I would say libertarianism is, in a pre-political sense, it's really about individualism versus a collectivism, a collectivist version of the vision of society. in a libertarian worldview, the primary fundamental unit, indivisible unit of society is the individual. And whereas with the socialist philosophy, it would be the nation or the group, as the region may be, and that the individual is subservient to that. And of course, when you get into politics in terms of economics, we would be big time free market, radical free market fundamentalists, as Nancy Pelosi would put it, which is obviously kind of the exact opposite of socialism. Libertarianism kind of grew out of the intellectual movement of classical liberalism and free market economics, going back to Adam Smith and Enlightenment thinkers like that. So that's where we come down on economics. Would be the main distinction with socialism. So we do have many points of agreement with Bernie Sanders on war and foreign policy, on the anti-war, on civil liberties, and even on the problems of cronyism and corporate corruption.
Well, I do always find it, and I know that music is getting ready to start up again. So, and here it comes. So we're going on break. We are talking to Andy Craig, who is a libertarian candidate for Congress in Wisconsin. He'll be here when we come back. Dr. Kevin.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts, Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland, on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, changing the world one ohm at a time. And here at the Dr. Kevin Show, we challenge everything and everyone. Today, we are challenging the world with Libertarian candidate Andy Craig. You can find out more about Andy and what he stands for at his Facebook page, Andy Craig for Congress. You can come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin. There is a kind of looking outward into the future, kind of George Washington face looking Andy Craig, an Andy Craig for Congress picture right there with the write-up, and you can get to Andy there. Andy, are there any other places you would like to recommend? Andy? Hello? I know I've got you on here. Can you hear me? Can I hear you? Andy? We may have to go back to phone. We thought we had him.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can now. Can you hear me now? Now. Yes, I can hear you now, Andy. Welcome to Skype. Can you hear me? I could hear you. Now I can't. Andy, are you there? You're still listing as being there. Andy, are you there? Whatever you did, I could hear you. Andy, are you there? Okay. Well, we may have to go back to the phone because I don't know what's going on. I have Andy showing up on my screen, but I'm not hearing him. So I don't know whether he can hear me or not. I just lost him, and I'm going to try calling him back one more time. Oh, Andy, can you hear me? Okay. We're going to try adding him again. Oh. So I am going to call him back. Hold on. Yeah, it shows that we're still connected on Skype. I don't know what's going on. We will have one more break. We may figure it out or we may not. And I'm just hoping that my listeners are here, that my listeners are able to hear you clearly. And we'll figure that out. So I sent people to your Facebook, Andy Craig for Congress. They can type that in Facebook search and find you. Where else? Oh, here we go. And you went away. Where else would they find you?
Yes, you can find me at andycraig2016.com.
Okay, Andy Craig at 2016.com. Okay, this is the segment of the show that I call Behind the Curtain. Oh, I hear sound. Andy, are you there?
Oh, okay. I think now we finally have Skype working here.
Oh, how much more clear we can hear you now.
Okay. Well, thank you. We've been sitting here having a little bit of a technical freak out here on my computer trying to get that to work, but should be good to go now.
There you go. So they can go to andycraig2016.com or Andy Craig for Congress on Facebook.
That is right.
Okay, so this is the segment of the part of the show we call Behind the Curtain. It always starts with a pop quiz, unless you've been my guest before, and the pop quiz is, from what movie did the line, "Ignore the man behind the curtain" come?
That would be The Wizard of Oz.
That would be The Wizard of Oz, and that's, there he was, a shyster from Kansas whose balloon got blown off track, pulling all these levers and trying to convince the world that he was the great and powerful Oz. In this day and age, there are a lot of people pulling levers and a lot of people trying to convince us of something as being great and powerful or lousy and horrible or whatever. They were trying to convince us black is white and white is black. This segment is for you to expose a truth for my listeners that's going to change their world in a better way if they figure out that it's true. What would that truth be?
Well, as a libertarian, I think I'm obligated to give the answer that it would be the maxim of non-aggression. that you're free to live your life so long, or however you want, so long as you don't hurt other people or take their stuff. That everybody should be free to have maximum range of free action so long as you don't violate the equal rights of others. And that's the fundamental moral premise that we build our political platform off of.
So libertarians don't like to get into people's bedrooms and private lives and tell them how they're supposed to be living.
Oh, definitely not. We were pushing for the repeal of laws against, we were calling for full marriage equality, much less the repeal of sodomy laws back in the 1970s, long before any Democrat dared touch the issue. The Libertarian Party was fighting for equal rights in that regard, and also against, all sorts of other laws that the government tries to impose itself in the bedroom that way.
Well, the government imposes a lot of stuff. And I don't know how familiar you are, probably not, unless you were one of those people that actually went and researched me before you came on my show. It occasionally happens, but not usually. I've done a lot of work with ADD and ADHD. I have several books on it, and that's one of my big platforms. And there is a lot of, an increasing amount of government intervention forcing parents to medicate kids for something that doesn't need to be medicated. And so it's not just
I'm
the government's in.
Very familiar with that.
How do we shift this?
Well, I think part of it, without a doubt, is that it was a bit of, for lack of a better term, a fad that hit. It became a popular, socially accepted thing to do, to medicate your children based on showing personality signs that were not properly understood, or not indicative of a psychological disorder, but are merely personality traits. And I think we saw a lot of that, and we saw a lot of overdiagnosis. And once something, there's a degree of moral hazard here. Once something gets slapped with FDA approval, and all right, this is government certified as safe and approved, then people don't question it. If some guy walked up to you on the playground and said, "Hi, your kid's being a little hyperactive. Let me dope him up with meth salts for the rest of the day," you probably wouldn't take that person too credibly. But they're wearing a lab coat and it's slapped with an FDA approval, then people go for that. I think part of it is we have to be better at valuing and appreciating neurodiversity, so to speak, and that there is no single template of what a human mind should necessarily work like, and that we have to accept the full range. And there will be people for whom medication is appropriate, that medication helps, and I certainly would never deny that to them. But it definitely, growing up myself as a kid in the 90s, I went through this. I was diagnosed and put on the pills, and I regret it. I wish I had not been on those medications, and I got off of them.
Well, part of it is, and and I don't want to get too much on my favorite soapbox because this is about discovering more about you. But we are by far the most over-medicated country in the world, and there is a great profitability to making our kids laboratory rats and cash cows. And this all feeds into part of my next question, which is, how do we get all of this corrupting money out of the State House, out of Washington, out of politics?
Right. Well, I'd have a slightly different answer than you might usually hear. You talk about these laws like McCain-Feingold and others that try to limit quote unquote money in politics by limiting how much people are really ultimately limiting how much people are allowed to speak. And it works out to be a heavy favoritism for the incumbents when you have these things like small donation limits and requiring people to go through these networks of professional bundlers and that sort of thing. It actually gives a big advantage to incumbents. I would say that it's a matter of how many eggs you put in that basket, how many foxes are going to be attracted to it, so to speak. That when you have these, I mean, ideally, if you minimize the power and influence of government to give away goodies, I mean, like just taking pharmaceutical industry as an example, they do a lot of good and important life-saving work. I don't demonize the pharmaceutical industry as such, but it is inevitable. I mean, it's not possible to be in that industry unless you're in bed and have ties with lobbying in the FDA and can shepherd these things through the approval process that costs millions of dollars and the rest of it. You know, I don't think there is any silver bullet to that we can somehow chase the money away forever. We have to reduce the demand. That so long as government is available to be bought and sold for giving out special favors and privileges, then it will be bought and sold. And chasing the money around is just going to be playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, well, I am and have been for a long time a big advocate that we need to eliminate all lobbying. I am a big fan of fixed limits in all political campaigns, so that everybody can run if they choose to. We'll be right back with Andy Craig, Libertarian candidate for Congress in Wisconsin.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she's feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Milasas, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show, where we're challenging everything and everyone here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world one Om at a time. My guest tonight is Andy Craig. Andy is running on the Libertarian ticket for Congress in Wisconsin. He's also working for the Gary Johnson for President. You can find out more about him in Andy in Congress. Now there's a positive. AndyCraig2016.com, or you can go to his Facebook fan page, which is which is Andy Craig for Congress, if you just type it into the Facebook bar. Andy, this is our last segment, and I do want to remind people, come to facebook.com/MyDrKevin. By doing so, you can be part of this conversation. You can ask your questions, leave your comments. We will read them on air. Andy, if somebody comes, because this show is rebroadcast 6 more times before my next show comes on, so somebody might be listening to this as a repeat broadcast. If somebody should ask a question after we no longer have you on air, are you willing to come on, or not come on air, but are you willing to go to the Facebook page and answer it for them?
Sure, absolutely. Anybody sends me a message to the Facebook page, I'm pretty usually respond to it within 24, 48 hours.
Okay, well, and they'd be doing it on mine, but you would get noticed because I believe if you followed instructions, you went on and liked my Facebook fan page, and it's on there, so they'd find you. So, Andy, this last segment is called What a Load of Crap. And it is a segment where I say the same thing to all my guests. What load of crap would you like to expose in the world today? So let's start there and see where we go from there.
Well, sure. I mean, I would say the main thing it would be here in the U.S. is how unique and how uniquely broken having a two-party only system is. If you look at the top 50 nations in the world, the only two that have just two parties in their national legislature are us and Nigeria. It's pretty well unprecedented in the rest of the world to have ballot laws as bad as we have, and to have the kind of institutional favoritism we have for the big two established parties. And so, I mean, in a country where no more than 35% of Americans identify with either major party, I would say it's time for us to have somebody out who's not a Republican or a Democrat in the U.S. House to be representing that viewpoint, somebody outside of the Team Red and Team Blue dichotomy.
Andy, if you were sitting in front of me, I'd give you a big kiss. Besides the fact that I'm very pro eliminating lobbyists, one of my other things is we really need a 4 to 5 party system. I've been saying this for years on air. That the fact that we have a 2-party system, it's like we have a beach ball that gets tossed between the 2 parties, and neither one of them in the long run ever loses. Only the American people do.
Right. It's bipolar politics.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I mean, we do have more independents that are starting to get in. But if we had independents, if we had libertarians, if we had Democrats, if we had Republicans, and, you know, whether it's a Green Party or it's I don't know. I mean, I don't care. But I'd like to see at least 4, maybe 5. And I'd like to actually see some representation that there has to be, Congress has to have some kind of representation of all the parties in it.
Yeah, I mean, I would quite happily, take up some kind of electoral reform. My preference would be to have instant runoff voting. So, say you go in and there's 3 candidates, and you rank them 1, 2, 3 instead of having to pick one on the ballot. That's how I would change it. But another option that some people advocate would be proportional representation. I would support that too. But for sure, that's kind of this year in 2016, with the Republican Party tearing itself apart the way it is, and not quite to the same degree, but something similar going on in the Democratic side with all these Bernie supporters that are going to be disappointed. I think we have a moment such as we haven't seen since 1992, if then, with Ross Perot. This is a once every 20, 25 years type of election cycle when one or both of the major parties are going through a big upheaval. And I think we're going to see an opportunity. Hopefully we'll have Gary Johnson, who I'm supporting as the Libertarian nominee. He's fighting to get included in the debate stage this fall with the Republican and Democratic candidates. And we're looking forward to welcoming all these sane, never Trump Republicans. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Did you ever see the movie Man of the Year with Robin Williams?
Yes, that's one I like that. I know it didn't get good reviews, but I that's one of my guilty pleasures. I enjoyed that movie.
Hey, if that's as guilty as your pleasures get, you're as clean cut as you sound. So you are currently running for a seat in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And
Here in Milwaukee, yep.
In Milwaukee. Been in Milwaukee only a couple of times. Can't say I'm a regular visitor there, but I have been there. Who are you running against, and how does it look for the three people, and what's going on?
Sure. Well, I'm running in against Gwen Moore, who is a Democratic incumbent. We're going for her 6th term. There is no Republican in the race so far. Might yet still be one that jumps in, but it's looking likely that there won't be a Republican in this race. It's a very deep blue district. The same Republican has run the last 3 times in a row. He's not running again. The last 3 times was beat by 50 points. So that's the kind of district it is. And I'm optimistic, though, that there's a case to be made against this kind of complacent, safe seat incumbent, Gwen Moore, who has a horrible attendance record on votes and endorsed Hillary Clinton, despite Hillary not being very popular at all in this district. So I'm optimistic that we can put together a kind of fiscally conservative and socially liberal coalition that people who want balanced budgets, who want tax cuts, who want smaller government can quite easily vote for me, obviously on the Libertarian platform. But so can the city's LGBT community, so can people who are anti-war, who are sick of the way Democrats have decided they're not anti-war all of a sudden anymore when it's their president in the White House. People are fed up with that. So I think in a head-to-head race, buoyed by a possible high result we're going to see for our presidential ticket in this race, I think it's entirely possible that I could win that head-to-head race, and that if not me, I am very confident that within the next 4 years there will be somebody, a libertarian, running for Congress who makes it in.
Okay. Now, Milwaukee is deeply blue. I know that, you make no bones about the fact that you actually moved to Milwaukee to be with your husband, yes?
Yep, that's right. I'm originally from Arkansas. Moved here about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yep. Spent a little time in Arkansas too, in Missouri. You sound more of that than you do Wisconsinian. But
I don't try to hide it, and I don't think I'd do very good trying to pass myself off if I did.
As what? A Wisconsinian or straight?
Well, I would hope I would do. Maybe I can probably do a little bit better on the second front, but I don't try either.
Yeah. So, do you think that LGBT is it losing some of its steam? Are people getting complacent now? And does it hurt or help in politics?
I would say there's largely a sense of, I loved that. So there was Freedom to Marry was one of the major groups that was pushing that, and that was their single issue. And what did they do after the Supreme Court decision came down? They disbanded. It's not to the point. People are losing interest in it, but that's not a bad thing. It's getting to where people just don't care about it anymore, and it's not politically relevant. And that's where I always wanted it to be. So I don't see that as necessarily being a bad thing. I don't see it as being a bad thing that the LGBT community is not necessarily monolithically unified in support of the Democrats. Obviously they're trying to push anti-discrimination laws at the margin is what they're trying to bring up to make it still be an issue. But, there really has been a social revolution of opinions such that, in particular in this district, it's just not an issue. But nationwide, we reached the point of, pretty much genuine legal equality. And that's all I ever wanted.
Well, and it's a very interesting thing because, I was doing the whole out and proud thing in the 70s, and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. So, I have a little longer view of some of this. I do have some concern that there are still not enough support systems at places where you have hateful, you still have.
Where things like the It Gets Better project and stuff comes in, and I absolutely support that. I know what it's like growing up in a very conservative Bible Belt sort of place as a gay teenager, and definitely there does still need to be the support networks and that sort of thing out there for it, and that things like bullying in school and that sort of thing need to not just be punished but made socially unacceptable, which is where I would say there's progress, but still more progress yet to be made, particularly in some places.
Yeah, and that's the end of it. Andy, thank you for coming. That's Andy Craig for Congress. Go to andycraig2016.com. Find out.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.